The FBI is the most sophisticated law enforcement agency in the world, pursuing the most dangerous criminals. When all American teenagers are forced to become sex slaves.
It's either, yes, you're going to do it, or no, you're going to die.
The lives of these girls meant nothing to him other than $1.
The Bureau mobilizes.
Just the way these people were treated is beyond something that you could put in a movie.
I'm thinking in my head, is this my last blink I'm ever gonna take? Is this my last deep breath I'm ever gonna have?
FBI, Criminal Pursuit. June 17th, 2004. Police officers burst into a motel room on the west side of Hartford. They're looking for a notorious criminal that they suspect he's running a prostitution ring.
He's been kind of, unfortunately, a criminal icon, if you will.
Do you understand your rights?
Officers arrest the pimp on a curfew violation and haul him into the lockup. But police miss something. An 18-year-old prostitute has been hiding in the bathroom. As soon as the officers leave, she escapes.
She had no money, no clothes, no home, and she just wanted to get bus fare to go back to her Vermont hometown. And the only way she could get that extra bit of cash was to walk the street and turn a trick.
The young blonde staggers onto Wethersfield Avenue.
Hi, how you doing? You looking for a date?
Out of nowhere, undercover cops surround the car. They slap cuffs onto her tiny wrists and arrest her as part of a sting in Hartford's Colt Park. It's a hotbed of prostitution.
Obviously, you can see the condom wrappers and the used condoms on the ground. They just take it off and dump it. A lot of times you'll see needles and crack pipes also.
Detective Deborah Skates, an 8-year veteran of the Hartford Police Department's Vice and Narcotics Squad, processes the girl. Detective Skates knows virtually every hooker and pimp in town, but she's never seen this one before. The girl is beautiful underneath her battered appearance, and the detective's maternal instinct kicks in.
It was very obvious that she was very high on heroin at the time, and I really felt if I didn't intervene and she went back to the streets, she would probably be dead.
Call me when you're ready to talk.
Desperate for help, the girl shows up at the Hartford police station and introduces herself as Gwen. At first, she's too scared to open up.
Are you ready to tell me what happened?
But once the shy teenager starts talking, it becomes clear that she's no average prostitute.
Giving me drugs. And then selling me off to these men. And beating me.
She tells Detective Skates a story so horrific, it almost doesn't seem plausible.
You gotta understand, this is a young girl who first thing out of her mouth told me that she had been kidnapped, raped, turned into a heroin addict, and forced into prostitution.
What are you taking me?
Gwen's ordeal begins less than a year earlier in the beautiful state of Vermont. Like many typical teens, Gwen is having trouble getting along with her mom. They decide it's a good idea if Gwen spends the summer in Hartford with her aunt. Gwen packs her things, never imagining she won't be back.
The family did not know what the aunt was into in Hartford, and the aunt was a prostitute in Hartford and had been working for Brian Forbes.
42-year-old Brian Forbes is a bail bondsman and bodybuilder. At 6'5" tall, he's an imposing figure.
When Gwen came to visit her aunt, he saw her and wanted to meet her, and he forced her aunt into introducing them.
Forbes quickly begins romancing Gwen, taking her to dinner and buying her presents. Gwen is hungry for stability in her life, and the relationship moves quickly. Just 1 month after their courtship begins, Brian invites her to move in with him. She has no idea that the man she thinks is her boyfriend is really part of Hartford's secretive, seamy underworld.
She was exactly what he was looking for. She was naive, she was young, she was blonde, she was Caucasian, she was moving to a town where she didn't have her bearings. She was completely vulnerable.
She was going to live with him at his residence, which we're headed to right now. That's really when the nightmare began for her.
Who's she?
That's my girlfriend.
They literally walked in the door of his home, and there was a female standing there, and she was actually introduced to her as Brian's girlfriend. That's when she realized something was not correct. Literally at that point, she was taken into a bedroom, and he actually raped her. That was the first night he shot her up with heroin. Several of his friends came to the house and had raped her. And then the next day he started putting her out to calls.
Gwen claims that Forbes held her captive and forced her into having sex with Johns. Unlike regular prostitutes who choose to sell their bodies and may get a piece of the profit, Gwen had no say in the matter. Her choice was to cooperate or die. With her all-American blonde good looks, Gwen is immediately a hot commodity, known on the streets as a snow bunny. It's a term Molly, a former sex slave who asked to have her identity disguised, is familiar with.
White girls are more expensive and make more money. The girl next door, the cheerleader, they're harder to come across.
Molly's story is remarkably similar to Gwen's. She was snared in the sex slavery business after running away from home.
We weren't a broken home, but we weren't the Brady Bunch. I rebelled once. That was it.
That rebellion changed her life forever. A friend's boyfriend pretended to care for her, then literally locked her in a room.
And I walked to the back room with him, and as I was walking, I noticed all the doors were closed and all the doors had locks on the outsides of them, like padlocks. He pushes me in a room, and he asks me if I've ever had sex before. And I started laughing, okay, stop playing, let me out. He goes, I'm really a pimp, and I'm here to keep you from ever leaving this house again. You're going to be my whore.
Over the next hours and days, Detective Skates learns even more details about what Gwen has endured. The story is so outrageous that Detective Skates isn't sure it's true.
Her name is Alicia.
Then, Gwen tells the detective about another victim, an 18-year-old named Alicia. Alicia is in jail for shoplifting. Detective Skates pulls her out for an interview and can't believe her ears.
I was trying to get away from him.
I knew Gwen and Alicia never had the opportunity to speak to each other. So I knew when I started interviewing her and she's telling me this exact same story, I'm like, wow, something's going on here.
Detective Skates realizes she may have stumbled onto a sex slavery ring, a federal offense, right in wealthy Connecticut. She approaches the U.S. Attorney's Office, who rushes to set up a multi-agency task force. They include the federal agency that deals with human trafficking, the FBI.
Prostitution is a state crime in which a woman sells her body for money. And human trafficking of women is a crime in which a pimp forces or coerces a woman to commit sex acts for money.
Special Agent Christine Grispino, a 19-year veteran of the Bureau, is well aware that up to 300,000 children are prostituted in the United States. Yet she has never investigated a sex slavery case this heinous before.
I thought that the victim was making it up, frankly. It was horrific. It was something that I did not think was happening, especially in Connecticut.
Even with Gwen and Alicia feeding them information, the FBI faces an uphill battle. They need to find out how many people are involved in the sex ring and who is the mastermind behind it. But first, they must prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that these girls are telling the truth. The FBI and local police have uncovered what seems to be unimaginable: an insidious sex slavery ring that forces young, suburban teenage girls into vile and unthinkable acts.
My impression of people who were prostitutes was that they were there because they wanted to be there, because they didn't mind performing sex acts for money. And I couldn't have been more wrong.
Sex slavery, or human trafficking, is a complex and dangerous business. And Special Agent Christine Grispino finds it hard to believe that it's happening in the upscale state of Connecticut.
Sex trafficking that people hear about involves illegal aliens who are brought in from other countries to pay off a debt or to be involved in the prostitution trade.
Who is the heartless mastermind behind the ring? And how deep does it run? Hartford Police Detective Deborah Skates has been interviewing two teens, Gwen and Alicia, to try and answer those questions. Initially, Gwen's story is hard to believe.
When she first started talking to me and telling me that she had been kidnapped and forced into prostitution and held and raped, inside I was saying to myself, yeah, little girl, you still got to go to jail. You've still been arrested. This is not going to get you out of going to jail. As she started talking to me, then she started naming names.
The first name Gwen drops is Brian Forbes. She tells Detective Skates that initially she thought he loved her.
You know, why wouldn't she? This man was treating her like a princess, taking her out to dinner, shopping with her, telling her how beautiful she was, going on dates. These guys are very patient. They wait until they have the girl's trust.
But when she moved in with Forbes, her knight in shining armor became a perverse pimp.
Gwen was actually taken into that room on the second floor where the air conditioning is, and was sexually assaulted by Brian. He beat her, hit her, slapped her across the face, punched her, raped her violently, and then she knew she was in trouble.
Do over here. Sit down. I need you to find
After
me
a
another
month in captivity, Forbes asks Gwen to get him another pretty blonde girl. If she doesn't, he'll go after her family.
Okay, I tell you what. What about her?
How did you get that picture?
Gwen has a little sister. He had met her little sister. He had threatened to do the same thing to her sister, to her mother, and so that was a big deterrent.
Terrified, Gwen contacts her childhood friend, Alicia.
Alicia? Hey, it's Gwen.
Alicia was a little feistier than she was, had a little bit more street smarts. She actually, in her mind, was hoping that she could get her out of this situation.
Gwen's call comes at a vulnerable time. Alicia is fighting with her mom and is ready to leave home. Forbes forces Gwen to make the 4-hour drive to New Hampshire to collect Alicia.
It's all really about manipulation. Manipulation through violence, through drugs, through threats, kind of psychological, mental torture, breaking down.
So we're glad to have you down here hanging out with you and your girl, you know?
She said it was one of the hardest things she ever had to do, is to drive the car back, because she knew what she was driving her friend into.
While Gwen watches the road, Forbes offers Alicia heroin. Alicia's tried drugs before and accepts the offer. She's too high to realize she's driving straight into hell.
It actually started literally that evening. They were both taken to a motel where Johns were waiting for them and forced into doing the calls.
I want you to have sex with her.
Alicia is so traumatized, she vomits.
They were freaked out. They were disgusted. They were ashamed. They were repulsed. They were confused. And that's how it all started.
As soon as the drugs wear off, Alicia starts to fight back.
I'm not okay with this at all. This is not, I didn't know this. No.
And that's when he took the violence to another level and really started leaving bruises and really hurting them. So he was actually physically punching them with his fists, giving them black eyes, cracking their ribs, bruises all over their bodies, kicking them, sexually assaulting them.
Gwen's hope that Alicia will help her escape is dashed when Forbes nails the windows shut and padlocks the door.
They were not allowed out except to use the bathroom, and they just had to see clients all day long. Clients meaning Johns, who could do anything they wanted to with the two girls. They were slaves.
According to Molly, a former sex slave, this kind of entrapment is common.
The windows were covered either with wood or cardboard.
Molly remembers picking at the window of her room, desperate to see a sliver of daylight. As punishment, Molly's pimp kept her chained up for more than a year.
I was allowed 5 minutes to wash myself, and that was it. I would scrub till my skin almost bled. I never felt clean from any of them showers. Never.
Gwen and Alicia never feel clean either. Forbes only lets them out to take them to John's, sometimes as many as 10 a night. He feeds them heroin to make them cooperate, and when they protest, Forbes withholds the heroin, forcing them into withdrawal.
They were manipulated with this heroin, so sometimes they were so high they didn't know what was going on, and then sometimes the heroin would be withdrawn in order to get them begging for more, but they were suffering from terrible, terrible withdrawal symptoms, and in order to get the heroin, they would have to do his bidding.
Forbes sells his 2 snow bunnies for more than 4 months. His success catches the attention of a powerful pimp known as Ramidi, the Swahili word for God.
Ramidi was seeing the 2 new girls in town and realizing how much money they were making Brian Forbes. And he, on several occasions, in parking lots from different motels, saw Brian Forbes discipline the girls by slapping them and hitting them, and had approached Brian and informed him that he really shouldn't be leaving bruises on his merchandise.
You don't know how to handle these 2? Why don't you go ahead and let me get them, man?
And kind of told him if he didn't know how to handle his girls, then let him have them.
Get in the car.
And he'd make sure they were handled correctly.
The men make a deal, and Forbes brings the girls to Ramidi's condominium outside Hartford.
And when they got to the condo, Ramidi made them take all their clothes off, disrobe in the middle of their living room. He took a Polaroid camera and was taking pictures of them. He made them give their measurements, their bra size, their weight, the height, and they actually went into his black briefcase.
While Gwen and Alicia stand shivering and naked, Forbes sells the 2 teens to Ramidi for $1,200.
So they were sold like livestock, like slaves, for a very disturbingly low figure, which is not out of line with other stories like this, and there are a lot of stories like this. Essentially, it was a slave trader selling to a new slave master.
Ramidi takes the girls with a smile, but they quickly learn that he's a far more evil master than Brian Forbes ever was.
Ramidi made probably between $100,000 and $200,000 a year. And these girls made nothing. They were forced to do things they did not want to do, that they were scared to do, that was harmful to them, that they were ashamed to do, that they were appalled to be doing.
Ramidi, whose real name is Dennis Paris, had been on Hartford PD's radar long before Gwen escaped. Though they couldn't prove it, they had long suspected he was involved in prostitution and other crimes. But now, as the task force continues hearing Gwen's story, they realize he's been doing something far worse. Enslaving girls, forcibly pimping them out through a sophisticated, sadistic empire he runs out of area motels.
It's pretty much out and out slavery, in fact. There's nothing legal about it, and it's all in violation of the 13th Amendment, which was the amendment that was introduced to abolish slavery.
The more investigators learn about this mysterious man, the more they see that there's only one way to get at him: by following the money. Special Agent Doug Worth from the IRS is brought on to the case.
Once the money went into Dennis Paris's bank account, it had to come out. It had to come out to pay for hotel rooms, pay for gas, pay for his cell phone service, pay for things to keep his business running, like any other business would be. He had income and he had expenses.
But no one pays a bigger price than Ramidi's slaves, whose cost of doing business is their very souls. A federal task force has been working to crack Hartford's secretive world of sex slavery and take down its notorious ringleader, Dennis Paris, aka Ramidi. IRS criminal investigator Douglas Worth learns that Ramidi's business, Paris Enterprises Group LLC, is registered with the Connecticut Secretary of State.
He represented himself as an escort service. He advertised in the Yellow Pages, advertised in local newspapers, trying to appear legitimate. But we knew otherwise.
He viewed himself as a businessman. He said he set up his shop like a regular business, that he was even using credit card payments, that he was paying taxes.
Remedi is organized and runs a tight ship.
Credit card, please.
He was the CEO. Under him were drivers, the drivers that would transport the girls to the various calls. Girls were last. They were the people that were earning the money for him.
Investigators also learn that Remedi keeps unusually detailed records in a large black briefcase, his mobile office. If they can get their hands on that information, they may be able to bring him down.
There was a lot of information in that briefcase. His credit card machine was in there. His receipts from setting up the business were in there. He had pads of yellow paper where he would write down what type of date the person called in for, what the directions were to the John's house.
Sign at the bottom. Get 1 hour.
Investigators get a boost in the case when Police Sergeant Christopher McKee joins their team. Breaking the ring quickly becomes a personal mission for McKee.
Our two victims that started this whole case, are from northern New England, and that's where I have two adopted daughters, and one of them is from the same exact area. And it very easily could have been them. It could be anybody's child.
Hartford detective Deborah Skates feels the same passion as she continues to interview Remedi's two victims, Gwen and Alicia. Alicia recounts how, in early summer 2004, her captor had begun advertising the girls' services on the internet.
He was telling them that he was actually putting their photos up online for people to see. And that really scared Alicia because she did not want any of her family members to see these photos.
One night, Alicia sees Remedi's black briefcase sitting unguarded in his motel room. She frantically searches through it and steals the photographs.
And when he went to his briefcase and saw that it had been disturbed and her photographs had been moved, he believed she was turning evidence over to an officer. He actually went down and took her out of her room at the time and brought her up to his room. And then the beating started. He threw her around the room, kicked her, punched her, handcuffed her.
Come here.
At that time, two of the drivers came to the room. He sexually assaulted her in front of the two drivers. They physically could not take him off of her, but they were trying to talk him down because he was so angry. Rolled her up into a blanket, threw her in the corner of the motel room.
Remedi tells his cronies to get enough heroin to overdose Alicia.
They were going to kill her, and then he wanted her body thrown in the Connecticut River.
I think it was bad before. You existed only because I let you exist. You were mine.
Alicia quits struggling in the blanket. Her life has become a living hell. And at this point, she has little to live for. Just a few months after her 19th birthday, Alicia believes her ordeal as a sex slave is about to end at the hands of her violent pimp, Dennis Remedy Paris.
This is the spot where Alicia was assaulted by Remedy and her associates and actually rolled up into a blanket, and she was going to be overdosed and dumped in the Connecticut River, which is not far from where we are.
When Remedy's henchmen return with the heroin, Alicia hears one of them argue to spare her.
Dude, she makes a lot of money for us. Look, man, he's right.
Some of the acquaintances that appealed to Remedy's love of money, who said that, you're going to lose a very valuable commodity here. You got a young white girl that you're going to get rid of just because you're mad at her.
Remedy's greed prevails, and he lets his valuable snow bunny live. But Alicia's not sure she's happy to be alive.
Remedy allowed his friends to gang rape the girls for free. So it just never ended. It was like a 24/7 hell.
Alicia tells Detective Skates that Remedy picks Johns to reward or punish his girls.
One John, he was the master. He beat them with whips. He used different items to penetrate them and rape them. He would urinate on them. And the girls would beg Paris not to have them go to him. And that was kind of used as a punishment, especially for Alicia when she got out of line.
But Alicia figures out a way to escape from Remedy's control.
Alicia had been taken out to do an out call, and on the way back, she had convinced one of the drivers to stop at a department store. In doing so, she got caught shoplifting, and she was arrested.
Remedy has some bail bondsmen get Alicia out of jail.
She was out on bond, and she was given a court date to appear for her case. Well, Paris made her do a John call instead of go to court.
The court, in turn, issues a warrant for Alicia's arrest. Paris has the bail bondsman arrest her once again. Paris has no idea this is exactly what Alicia wants.
They came to the motel right there and dragged her out of the room while he sat downstairs in a parking lot, and they all laughed at her and said, "You didn't believe us, we told you. Now maybe you'll learn a lesson, maybe you'll listen to us. Now you can go through heroin withdrawals in prison. Now you're gonna be sitting in jail."
Though her skin burns from heroin withdrawal, Alicia breathes a sigh of relief. As long as she's behind bars, Dennis Paris, her torturer for nearly a year, can't hurt her anymore. But investigators know the lives of more girls like Gwen and Alicia hang in the balance, and they have to act quickly if they're going to bring Remedy down. In November 2004, detectives begin conducting 24-hour undercover surveillance on Remedy and his crew. As they watch Remedy, it's clear that he's operating his business, Paris Enterprises Group, from the room of a local motel.
The reason this is such a good spot for having clients come is it's easy on the highway and easy off the highway. You come off the highway, you take a right and a left, and it's just as easy as that.
Finally, after months of surveillance, the task force has enough evidence for a search warrant. Federal and local law enforcement officers meet at Hartford Police Headquarters to plan their sneak attack. At this point, their greatest weapon is the element of surprise.
What if Paris sees us, if his acquaintances see us? What can they destroy? What can they get rid of before we get into that room?
If they can get their hands on Remedy's briefcase, which contains detailed credit card records, they can bring down Paris Enterprises Group and bust up the ring.
By accepting credit cards, it does one of two things. For him, it provides an additional revenue stream. For us, it creates a financial paper trail, which we track all the way from beginning to end, ending in a criminal prosecution. If we found that, it was a home run.
But if they are too late, Hartford's all-American slave master may walk away a free man.
Dennis Paris had been a pimp for a long time. And how you can keep running a business and nobody knows about it.
Federal and local task force is about to execute a search warrant on slave master Dennis Paris, aka Remedi, and his business, Paris Enterprises Group. Investigators rush up the back staircase of a hotel, his base of operations, and charge into Remedi's room.
We entered the room and saw Mr. Paris sitting on the bed, with very surprised to see a team of agents entering the room.
After officers take Paris into custody, IRS agent Doug Worth opens the notorious black briefcase and finds the hardcore evidence they've been looking for.
It's a manual credit card imprint. The credit card slip, the receipt would go into the top, and it would located within here is the notation Paris Enterprises Group, and that would be the notation on the credit card receipt that we're being charged for the sexual services.
What Paris thought was a smooth business move turns out to be his undoing.
Seizing that black briefcase, that was like seizing the Holy Grail. That was a huge, huge break in our case.
On March 16, 2006, Dennis Paris, Brian Forbes, and 8 associates are indicted on 56 counts, including sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. Sergeant McKee and Detective Skates arrest Brian Forbes.
I personally chose to take him into custody. It was something that I felt I needed to do personally.
Hands above your head.
I actually took him out at gunpoint. I said, basically, you like beating on women? Try beating on me. The first phone calls I made were to Gwen and Alicia. And I had the pleasure of telling them that everybody was in custody.
Once Remedi and Forbes are in custody, investigators learn about more victims, some barely out of puberty.
Ninth graders. When the Johns were shown pictures of these ninth graders in their yearbook, they flipped out. It just completely busted up the fantasy of who they were having sex with. They were little kids who were dressed up to look like something else and act like something else.
I'm angry. I'm angry that they would be victimized like that by these pimps. And I'm angry that somebody's going to pay $175 to $225 to have sex with a 14-year-old.
Our adopted daughters that come from similar backgrounds, and but for the grace of God, as I said, you never know. You never know. So yeah, it's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing.
Sex trafficking of a minor is added to the list of charges against Paris and Forbes. In 2007, Brian Forbes pleads guilty and is sentenced to 13 years in prison. He's ordered to pay $16,000 restitution to the victims. Dennis Paris chooses to fight it out at trial.
When it came to Paris, his arrogance was, take me to court. They'll never have the guts to testify.
But Gwen, Alicia, and 2 minors do face Paris in court.
They were looking at me, and the looks on their faces were just, save me. And the defense attorney saw them looking at me and turned and said, "She can't help you in here."
Their ordeal is worth it. After 3 hours of deliberation, the jury finds Dennis Paris guilty on all counts. He's sentenced to 30 years in prison without parole and is ordered to pay $46,000 in restitution.
It felt good. It felt really good. That was definitely the highlight of my career. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it.
Both Gwen and Alicia have moved on with their lives and become mothers. Molly's Pimp is still on the streets. She worries about running into him again, but is committed to changing her life.
I still have a lot to face, but my biggest dream is to catch the man that did this to me and educate people and hopefully put the end to this bad demand of the sex trafficking.
It's a dream shared by the FBI and those who put Remedi behind bars.
Most of the cases that I've worked on have involved people's finances or something was stolen from them. The thing that was stolen from these people was their dignity.
To do what I do, that's nothing compared to the courage it took for these young ladies to live through this and survive and come out the other end. To me, that's what real courage is all about.